as quickly as possible here. So I will give a limited introduction because a lot of people already know who John is. But for those who don't, John is now a retired former member of USA Volleyball, heavily involved in grassroots volleyball, heavily involved in working with not just the volleyball community, but communities in other sports, and kind of at all levels of the game. Told me earlier today, the last couple of days, he's been tied up with an NHL team. So he's, despite his retirement, he's keeping himself busy and out there. So I'll let John get rolling. And, as I said, if you have questions that you want to chime in, pop them in the Q&A and we'll see if we can get to them. Well,
all right. Well, thanks everybody for giving me some of the most important currency you've got, which is your time. I appreciate it. And, I'm going to be focused on the 97%, even though I work at the Olympic and Paralympic and level. My passion and my world is this 97% that don't get a chance to do what others at the elite level are. So that kind of started in the screenshot you see here when I lived in Italy and played professionally in Italy. We did a thing with FIVB in 1984, 83, mini volleyball with Huey, Dewey, and Louie. In Italy, it's qui, quo, and qua, here, there, and over there. And Sport Goofy coached them, and they did all sorts of things, and they still do it. They did for many, many years a mini volleyball Mickey Mouse Cup in Siena, where they play 3-on-3 on mostly cobblestone or street. This book in 85 was pretty impactful for me, but the most impact is, I guess, that this 97%, this Chinese saying, winning and losing are temporary, friendships last forever. I think that's one of the most important things that you do at the 97%, but I do it at the elite level. Let me give you an example. In 84, a gal named Long Ping, the Iron Hammer, destroyed USA's dream of a gold medal in the women's side and took home gold and to great fame. And the first team sport, China won because it was the first Olympics they were back in and everything. Big deal. 4 months later, where was she living? John, do you know where she was living? I don't even know if you or Giselle, do you know where she was living?
Jillian,
any idea?
Langping.
Yeah.
Langping. Where was she living?
Did she not end up in the US?
Someplace in the US. She was living in my house.
Oh.
I taught her English. I taught her the American ways. She taught us a great deal about, who she was. And then in 96, I helped her coach. I ran produced the 96 Atlanta Olympics, and she won a silver, losing to Cuba, an island of, only 7 million people that won 3 gold medals in a row, including the 96 games. 2008, where was she? Sideline in Beijing, coaching the US team, beating China and winning a silver medal. And then in 2016, she became the first woman to ever win a gold medal as a coach. As a player, one thing, but the first woman coach. So yeah, it's elite, but it comes from this phrase. So I'm challenging you guys to take your teams after you win or lose to a team and take the team out for pizza or go sit in the hallway and talk to them and ask them how they got so good and, make these friendships that are way more important than winning and losing. So that's why I'm here, because of friendships. I also believe in this phrase about, sharing secrets, that a rising tide lifts all the boats. So that's why I'm with hockey and Major League Baseball, and because every one of those sports are impacting kids, and I want that every kid has a great experience. There's lots of experience. I've never thought about, I lost a player to this sport. As long as they're being active, I'm pretty happy. So Jefferson's idea of lighting, I think about sharing apples. If you and I share apples, we still only have one apple each, but if we share secrets, You just start increasing the number of ideas and secrets that you have. So please share secrets. There's a picture of my son. He's just played on Wednesday against for Berlin Recycling, the #1 team in the Bundesliga. They're in the Polka, the big cup, and they won the first cup, and they're in they can do no worse than tied for 5th in the CEV Champions League, because they're in the quarterfinals. So, but this kid happened to be somebody I raised, like my daughter too, who played years of volleyball. They both played 10 sports growing up. This kid here that's hitting the ball is not a specialist. He was captain of his lacrosse team. He was captain of his tennis team. He surfs, he skis. He loves volleyball, but he did all these sports growing up, and I believe in that reality and not specializing for sure. You're also going to get an article from me about decisions that impacted me greatly. I'll send it to John. Simply put, it impacted me the most because it made me realize the variability in kids. And I've won 25-0 at the 13-year-old level and then lost 0-25 to the next game. Kids have huge variability, and you just have to be patient. They're not doing it on purpose. But humans have variability. If you hammer a nail 100 times, you think, oh, I hit it 100 times, but it's like a bell curve on the head of the nail. And I think that we don't realize the variability that impacts kids. The reason this decisions article is so early in this talk and so important to me is because Daniel Kahneman, an Israeli psychologist, mathematician, was teaching Israeli fighter pilots about the power of praise and how punishment doesn't work too well. And they all raised their hand and said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I punish my pilots after good landings, and invariably they do better. And I've praised them, and then invariably they do worse. I jinx them. I break their concentration. Don't tell me this is flipped around. And he goes, oh my God, these guys are being fooled by regression to the mean, the principle of mathematics. And he went on to explain to them, in volleyball terms, let's say you pass 50% perfect, and all of a sudden you do 10 in a row. I know we should praise you, but I also know in the next 10, mathematically, you'll probably regress to your mean. It's not because I broke your concentration. It's not because I jinxed you. It's because you're a human. And the reason it's taken 2 minutes of our precious time here right now is because the flip side is young John Kessel. I saw what I thought was working was punishment. I thought it worked. How do I think it worked? Because, John, you'd suck out there. You do 0 out of 10. And so I'd sub and I'd put you on the bench and I'd go, John, you're a much better passer than this. Where's your head? And drop and give me 20 push-ups and, all this stuff. And then finally, you ready to get back in there? Show me what you're made out of, Foreman? Come on, show me. And you get back out there, and what do you do in the next 10? Probably, and that is 5 out of 10. That's who you are currently. And so it wasn't the punishment that did it. It's because we regress to our mean. We're humans. So pretty important stuff, I think. What I'm going to be talking about here tonight is information and not criticism. So if it comes across as criticism, it's going to be me, the 1971 first-year college coaching John, not the little bit wiser because I keep researching and studying all the science of our sport and not the opinions, but the facts in our sport. And this is a shot of why Cody got good as an indoor player. He's played for Princeton for 4 years, All-American and blah, blah, but he didn't play 6-on-6 until he was 15 or 16. He played doubles, partly with me against men, but also with friends. And that's a huge 97% impact. To play doubles, an Olympic sport, you just play it on hard court, or you don't have to play it on sand, grass. Just to play doubles Even our national team plays quite a bit of doubles because you get the game-like reality and reps and reading that you need, which in 6-on-6 with 6 on the bench, nobody's really getting it. It's through doubles and triples that you get much, much better. So I'm also here not to say that I'm right and you're wrong, or this is right and that's wrong. It's I'm talking about how I've learned over 50 plus years to be more effective and efficient due to motor learning science and the principles of learning that we've researched now for almost, in 1975 is when we first started really researching it. So it's almost at 50 years. Question for us, are they good at the position? Or are they a good volleyball player? I am seeking good volleyball players. Even our national team, I want a player who's good at all 6 skills and great at 1 or 2, not a specialist. So, high priority slide. Never be a child's last coach. To anybody listening to this, if you go 0 and 30 and every kid plays the next year, you're one hell of a good coach. If you go 30 and 0 and half the kids quit, I don't think you're doing a good job of coaching. It's it's how many kids keep playing after you've given them your love and time in volleyball or any sport that makes you a good coach, in my small opinion. This guy's John Wooden. Americans know him better than probably the Brits, but he is arguably ESPN magazine named in the #1 coach in the first 50 years of sport. Basketball coach, 10 NC2A titles, tons of NBA players. His book, They Call Me Coach, anything that you just type in John Wooden, quotes or whatever, and his stuff is gold. Marv Dunphy, our gold medal coach in '88, did his thesis on John Wooden, PhD thesis. I had the chance, we won the gold in '88. We were flying back from Seoul together. I stepped up to Marv and said, congrats on the gold. Back then, there wasn't any, you could, sit around and walk all over the place. It wasn't like it is now. And I said, I'm writing this new book that now has sold over 500,000 copies called Impact. 25 words or less. What did you learn by doing your thesis on John Wooden? And Marv turned to me and said, Cass, I don't need 25 words. I just need 2. Be consistent. That's what he saw in hundreds of hours of interviews with him, of talking to all the other players, that he was so consistent. And I've since then strived to be more consistent. Because I was more of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, a screamer and a praiser, when I was a young coach in the 70s. We also did some research on him and studied that 76 of his phrasing, his wording to his athletes, was specific. So young John Kessel did this. Way to go, John. Good job. That's it. That's not it. What I'd like you to do is say, that's it, because it's okay to be encouraging, but throw in a comma and fill in the blank, because that's it. They don't know what it is. And I wasn't specific enough until I saw the research on Wooden and how clear he was to his athletes so often. So these are facts and not opinions for the most part. A lot of the stuff I'm wrestling with here, because in the end, what's happened is no longer an athletic competition. It's a learning competition. I get kids who are not very good, and because we learn faster, we beat kids who have better talent for sure. But they haven't been taught as effectively and efficiently as I've found and we've found to make these things happen. For all you Brits that don't know some of this, we are the #1 team high school sport in America, volleyball, with nearly 500,000 high school girls playing scholastically. And that we've got almost 400, we've got over 400,000 in USA Volleyball as well. These tournaments, I was proud to be part of the how do you put everything under one roof with sport court process. We did 2 in 1988, and then we moved on. Now these huge tournaments happen, so everybody sees everybody playing. In America, there's 15,000 scholarships for these girls, and we just won our first gold medal, and we in the Olympics undercarch, and undercarch also we won in 2014 in a world championship. But the women have 3 pro leagues. The women are getting amazing athletes because you're the #1 sport. Volleyball for boys, no, the best athletes go to NFL, and they go to Major League Baseball, and they go to the NHL, and they go to the NBA because there's huge millions and millions of dollars there. Our athletes aren't the best at the school the way women are, yet we just won our first Olympic gold. Why? Well, that's kind of what we're here to talk about tonight. So we have no pro league for the men. We've won 3 Olympic golds and 8 world golds since '84. Somebody tell me how many scholarships there are for men in America with all those golds, and 15,000 for women. How many for men? What do you think?
Well, I could tell you it's under 500.
Yeah, the answer is about 250. 250 scholarships. This is why I think England can achieve the way Cuba did if we just get kids to love the game and be leaders and play. I'm going to make it 3 words: training in reality. The vast majority of volleyball coaches practice for practice and not to perform. They practice so it looks good, and we'll have a little slide on that. But with 250 scholarships, many of them going to foreign players, not to Americans. Cody had no scholarship. He played 4 years under no scholarship because each school, men's school, can only give 5 total free rides. The women can give 12. It's just, why have the men won so much? Because we share secrets. The women keep them to themselves. And only Karch has finally started to get the college players to feed him better by getting him into his gym and saying, this is how we learn faster, not that drill. In fact, a little sidebar, it's not in the slides. Right now, the USA men do about 6 drills, 6 games, 6 drills. That's about it. We'll see a slide here in a second on how crazy that is. So I'm after 3 things in this slide about principles. First is the why, or first is effort. Effort over outcome is a huge focus. You've got to put in the effort. The prizes are going to be sent to you. The man who knows how will always have a job. The man who knows why will be his boss. The coach who knows why, through some of the stuff we're talking about tonight, will beat the coach who knows how, as will the player. The thing that I'm after is principles, because as he says here, and this is Ralph Waldo Emerson, an engineer, not the writer. As to methods, there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. If you grasp principles, you select your methods. If you try methods ignoring principles, you're sure to have trouble. Well, I see that all the time because coaches practice for practice and not to perform. Karch says it this way in his gym: the science has shaped everything we do. And the stuff I'm talking about, I know one of the coaches was kind of saying, well, I want to see the research. Okay, I'm going to send some of the research on to John. But since 1975, we've been working on motor learning science, and some of the rabbit holes I've got in a quick slide here early to talk about constraint-based learning and perception action coupling and the things that we know to be very impactful, especially in volleyball. Why is that? Later on, you'll see a slide, but it's come to mind right now, and that is the #1 skill in our sport is reading, not serving, passing, setting, spiking, blocking. In fact, every national team coach I've talked to since the gold medal in '84 I'll ask John. Would you want to have a player who is okay at technique but great at reading, or great at technique but not so good at reading? Who would you rather have?
Reader all day.
All day. All day. But here's the thing, and again, there's some of these slides I'm jumping ahead of, but our game is played frigging over a net. Every third contact goes over a net. And young John stood in front of the net, and still I see programs standing in front of the net, passing the ball back and forth, peppering and doing all these things. And it's sometimes 45 minutes before a ball goes over the net, unless they serve for a few minutes, you know? It's like, how can this be? Because nobody in tennis trains that way. Nobody in badminton stands in front of the net and does any drill. Nobody in tennis stands in front of the net and does a drill. And yet ping pong, I'll put my paddle here in front of the net and we'll start learning ping pong. Nobody does that, because the ping pong table tennis guys are amazing at reading. That little white thing screaming along, the read on the guy's arm swing, they can rally in ways that my brain doesn't understand practically. But in volleyball, we spend all this time in front of the net or on the same side of the net. I've got a slide, didn't include it here, but I'll say it. Maybe I'll send it on, John. Has a page out of my mini volleyball book that says, use of the court without use of the net is prohibited. And then underneath it, you see a beach. Mind-boggling to me. An hour into a beach training, and one side of the court, because it was all smoothed out to start, is still smooth. That's what's happening in beach. They've taken these indoor ineffective things and brought them into the beach when they're practicing for practice and not to perform. So Karch gets it. Chaos, randomness is how we learn. And you'll see a slide here about how did we learn to ride a bike? John, do you know how to ride a bike?
It's been a while, but I think I can remember.
Okay. So kids die around the world learning to ride a bike, and I haven't found anybody dying because of volleyball. In baseball, they get hit in the chest, they die, and broken necks in football and blah, blah, blah. I'm not talking about a heart attack because of physical fitness or lack thereof. I'm talking about dying because of a volleyball hitting you or whatever. Bicyclists die. So we're going to find out how loved you were, John. Did your parents hire a bike riding coach?
No, definitely not.
Did they send you to bike riding summer camp?
Nope.
How many bike riding drills did John Foreman do? Drills.
Can't think of a single one.
How about progressions? Did you like pedal right-footed 100 times and then pedal left-footed 100 times and then try to put the two together?
Nope, didn't do that.
No. And you learn to ride a bike through trial and error, which is volleyball too. It's just so important to the game teaches the game. And drills are the drugs of coaches. That's the blank that's there, drugs. Because the first ball comes over the net, then you go 1, 2, 3. Or you can go 1, put it over. That's tennis, which is what low-level volleyball looks like, because they're trained in pairs to play tennis, not volleyball. I had a coach call me from Idaho. Oh my God, John, we can't serve receive for shit, but we can do 1,500 partner passes in a row as a team of 12, 6 on 6, and touch and go to the back of the line. And we hit 1,500 in a row. We're so good. Yeah, you're practicing for practice, not to learn how to serve receive. Passing is a skill you don't want to have. The tradition of passing, putting it straight back to where it came from. I don't want to know how to do that. I want to know how to serve receive. That's a huge different thing. Even at 12, at 10, at 11, the ball comes over the net and goes towards the net, then it goes along the net, and then somebody puts it over the net. That's what's going on, And of course, it's scored. So when I say we only do about 6 drills, I bet the guys have 100 different ways to score, because that's part of the game, scoring. So I started on this, and I want this slide I made up after John shared me some of the Facebook things. First, England volleyball will get more kids loving the game if, with the beginners, you go in and say, "Hi, I'm John Kessel. I'm a volleyball coach. Let's hit." And you hit every day, but you hit from the back row because they're little kids. Or you lower the net. You even do spiky ball or whatever that is if you want to lower the net much. I don't do spike ball. I just let them hit. And what I'm saying is that I'm going to teach at the same time, because Marv Dunphy, not in this handout, but since we learn best from things that are game-like, the ideal drill is a pass, set, hit drill. The ideal setting drill is a pass, set, hit drill. The ideal spiking drill is a pass, set, hit drill. The ideal digging drill is a dig, set, hit drill. I get little kids that have never played. One of them stands near about 2 meters off the net. The other one stands behind the 3-meter line, if I haven't put up my ribbon to get more reps. And I have the friend throw it. One friend puts his hands up, and he's going to go ball superhero. The ball's going to be thrown near or into his hands, and he's going to superhero it back to his friend. His friend is going to go superhero, and then the kid's going to hit the ball. And they can do this sometimes on the third try or the second try. They go slap, slap, not technique. No, they're reading the ball. Slap, slap, jump and hit. That kid will come back tomorrow. That adult will come back tomorrow. Young John, if you can't pass, not even serve receive, I said then. If you can't pass, you can't hit. And so we passed. And I see these 8-year-olds rubbing their arms. They go home and they, "Mom, can you get me some ice?" Oh my God, this sadomasochist named John Kessel came to England, and oh God, and they're rubbing their arms down, and they don't want to come back to do that sport. But if you hit and slap and hit, and then say, "Okay, now let's serve," not even the same day, but another session. And then you introduce this painful thing of forearm passing, they're already hooked. I guarantee you. Is there science behind it? Yeah, the science is that volleyball has grown more than any sport in the United States in the last years. And that's because we're finally adopting these ways to make volleyball more fun and everything. So the first hit I teach kindergartners. I say, look at this line. If I can't get the ribbon up, this is the Olympic zone. This is a 3-meter line. We're going to hit from there first, and it's called the A, pipe, and D. And so we're all going to hit pipes. And even though we're in the A zone and the D zone, we're going to hit pipes. You'll see it in the Olympics. You listen to them, they'll say, "That was a really nice bic or a pipe that they just hit." We really don't hit pipes. We hit bics first. I should change this from A pipe D to A bic D, because little kids can't set high outside, but they can slap it up to a bic height, and the kid can then go in and hit it. And my God, I just hit a bic, you know. And you want to do front setting and back setting right away, not do it until they're good enough to be setters. Everybody should set at the young level. I love Brazil and Canada, with the rules of saying, you have to do a 6-6 until you're 15. I love things like that. They're developing players, not specialists. Cody, coming from this world of the way I developed him, he played middle 3 weeks ago because their middles were in trouble. He played opposite, and then he went back to his normal OH position of opposite hit, outside hitter. Because he's a player, even at the pro level. Positive to negative to great. Yeah, let's do it now. Gosh, I think this is a big change that some of you may have to do. I know it was for me at the beginning, but I think everybody knows the positive and negative. So in serving, is it better to serve into the net or out of bounds long? And since it's long, because you teach your teammates in practice out, if you hit out long, they might touch it, they might call it in. And in spiking, the same principles apply of positive versus negative, but you also have to hit off the blocker's hands, which is always way over the net. But if you ever hit into the net, it's 100,000 times bad out of 100,000. It's never good to hit into the net. So what did young John Kessel do? He bebopped over to the wall and he spiked balls to the floor, and it bounced off the wall and made this big boom. And I worked on this thing that doesn't exist also called wrist snap. And I went boom, 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 boom. And I taught my kids to be horrible at spiking because none of those kids could hit what they were learning against the wall. I was teaching them how to hit into the net. I was teaching them how to hit under the net. Oh, I wish I had those kids back. Now I put a stripe up on the wall at 7'4¼ 2 meters, 224 or whatever. And I set it and we hit it over the stripe every time. That's the arm swing I want to learn. And I learned to hit wrist away, and I learned to hit cross body, and I learned not to hit where I'm looking. And all these things add up to 14-year-olds that can go toe-to-toe with college players as long as they're set off the net because they can play. Boy, what was another one I got good at? Passing against the wall. So it says salt and pepper. To anybody listening to me still, if you haven't signed off and given up, I'm saying that in pepper, the classic one-on-one warm-up of two people, that the way I taught it for 15 years to dig back to the spiker, back to my partner, I was teaching them the negative skill because I don't want anybody on my team to receive a hard hit shot and dig it back to the spiker, the hard hitter. That's what volleyball looks like at the beginning level. It flies over the net. It's tennis again. And it wins because at the lowest level, at the 97% lowest level of volleyball, the worst teams win. Why? Because you're doing 3 hits and jumping and hitting and all this stuff, and they're just playing tennis. They're one-handed over and going, yay, we won on the outcome, but not in the skill. So I taught Cody, who plays great D, I'm proud to say as a dad, for Berlin Recycling, the Bundesliga champions. He comes in and he digs up. His pepper he learned, he's probably been forced by the coach to do the other kind of pepper, but he learned that anytime a hard ball came to you, you dug it up. And then you hit it to your partner who dug it up. And that's what this slide says, salt and pepper. If you have a team of kids who every time a ball comes to them, they dig it straight up, not to the setter, but not back to the hitter, you can transition, kill, and win the match. Not at the beginning, though, when every time you may go past that hit and hit it over, they hit it over on one again. You're going to lose to those lousy teams. But it's not about the outcome at your low-level volleyball. It's about the process and the learning. The warm-up of 2 versus 0, what is that? That means, John, you're on one side of the net, I'm on the other. I serve the ball over the net, inside the 3-meter line. I might even set it over the net because I'm warming up. And then I'm going to run underneath the net to be your setter. Because you're going to take my serve or put ball over the net to you, and you're going to put it not back to me, not up to you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to run underneath the net and take your ball that you pass to me, and I'm going to set it. But now that I've set it, you hitting the third ball need to put the ball over the net, and I need to be somewhere to be the target. So I'm going to backpedal as soon as I set. A skill in defense is pretty good, not keep moving forward until they drop one over your head, but moving backwards is a huge part of defense. As soon as I set, I read you and I backpedal to the other side. 8-year-olds can do this with overhead passing. Set, OHP. But they're moving, because the better you get at pepper, the more or less you move. Oh my God, the great pepper players, you could nail their shoes to the floor and they could keep peppering because they're so good at ball control. God, what a horrible term, ball control. Okay. So I warm up with 2 versus 0. On the sand, they get exhausted pretty quickly. On indoor, they get tired too. But they're learning, even at the minute they step into the gym, they're warming up, not jogging, not stretching. Remember, I was in Scotland. This will make you guys feel better. I was working with the national team of Scotland. I put a ribbon up and we had 19 guys, and I said, show me your warm up. And they started jogging around the court. I mean, it was cold, Edinburgh or something like that. But I stopped them halfway around the court and said, do Scottish men not know how to run? Well, no, we know how to run. Well, then why are you running, and why aren't you playing volleyball? This net is only here for 90 minutes, and then you're going off to the real world. Use the net the entire time, over it. Play 2 versus 0, 1 versus 1 plus 1, and all these things. And that's what they did. So, and this last one, 100K serve receptions lost. So don't be like young John, who said serve, and they served, and they went 6 on a side and they served. I determined that I probably lost 100,000 serve reception reads. Now I put 1 player on each side of the court, 5 people serve. They don't have to wait. They can serve 2 at a time or whatever. But there's a receiver on both sides of the dang net receiving balls that they're putting to the setter, who isn't there, because you don't need the setter there. Just they know if it's a good pass to the setter, even when they're 8 after about 2 practices. They know where it's supposed to kind of go. So don't be young John and serve 6 on a side and let 100,000 balls fall on red. You put somebody on each side and let them read. So there's some rabbit holes to start down. Training in reality, training ugly, or perception action coupling. I think the science you'll find the most on perception action coupling, because that's what everybody does. Their action has to couple with what they're reading. How we move is determined by what we see. Okay, so let me jump out, since I'm in volleyball land. Let me jump out to young John when a player would hit the ball down by their ear. Okay. So they would spike and their hand was kind of by their ear, or, just above their head. Their elbow was dropped, I said back then, dramatically. So young John said the following things: reach, get on top of the ball, get your elbow up. When I was a brand new coach, don't drop your elbow. And my mom said, first grade teacher, you're awful negative out there, John. Oh, okay, get your elbow up. And anything like that is bullshit. I know now. All I do is I say, show me without the ball what you should do when you hit. It's called checking for understanding. And if they hit with a dropped elbow, or because they're a softball thrower, or I don't know, cricketer or something, they throw low. Okay, no, we want to hit high up here, and we work on that understanding and show me without the ball. Okay, you got it. Go do that. But you won't see that. You're a good coach. You've shown them how to spike, and they understand they're supposed to reach and hit the ball. But they don't. They hit it down by their ear. Why? The coach who knows why beats the coach who knows how. Why are they hitting it by their ear? The ball's there. And they're not going to reach and hit it off their elbow and look like a dork. They're going to put their hand on the ball. That's what humans do. So now young John says, reach, extend, and I'm not helping because their timing is wrong. Their read is wrong. So I ask the kid, I don't tell them the answer. You guide discovery. You never tell them what to do. You just ask questions constantly all over the place in the gym. And I say, after checking for understanding, we now confirm you're supposed to hit it at full extension. Okay, you just hit it down here. How do you hit it up there? What do you got to do differently? And ultimately, they get to, I need to go sooner, I need to go faster, or I need to do both. And if they do any of those things with their technique that they've already figured out on their own, they're going to hit it at full extension because the ball is up there. They might even whiff one. They go too fast the first time. And I'm like, yeah, because they swung so fast. So coupling what you read with what you do is really important. So the rabbit holes, because of the questions that John shared with me from Facebook, are here in part. This is an article I'll be sending to him about developing implicit behaviors and vision. And the effects of this are exemplified of inexperienced coaches training novice players where the instructors get frustrated by the performance variability, the bell curve of not being very good yet, and lack of successful reps of new learners. So these inexperienced and even older John got frustrated and abandoned whole teaching methods and went to part. So I'm practicing for practice and not for performance because I don't do parts. I do the whole skill. And the sooner I do it, the better I'm going to be, just like you rode a bike. I mean, did anybody make you do tag drills? No, you learn to make your whole body get out of the way. That's a whole skill. You didn't do progressions in tag. So, unfortunately, this course of action defies the learner because they replace blocked. They go back to blocked instead of random. Unfortunately, this course of action deprives the learner of the environmental variability and sensory inputs, all the scientific wording you can throw at yourself, essential for the formation of motor maps and implicit behaviors. So drawing distinctions between training methods based on age or ability is a coaching practice that has no foundation in motor learning science or the application of motor learning principles. The next part here are the places after we sign off, or if you want to stop listening to me and go down any of these rabbit holes. These are all great rabbit holes. I highly recommend Optimal Learning Theory, research by Wolf, where you stop talking about body parts and you start talking about the ball and euphemisms for, like, your forearms, or just stop saying body parts. And that's all I have time in this session. We're not doing motor learning. We're just doing the shit I learned the hard way talk today. So not leaving this up here long, but because I'm giving you guys this slideshow, I've already given it to John. These are videos to watch. Some of them are really important. The work I did in Thailand. These are 11 and 12-year-olds who can beat most high school teams in America. How did they get so good? They played doubles. The older kids taught the younger kids. The 12s taught the 9-year-olds, not the teacher. Teacher's there, but that which you teach, you learn. And so they've got the 12-year-olds, half of the practice, they're not practicing, they're teaching. And then they go play 6-on-6 because they're old enough. And where is some of the science? It's found in a lot of these podcasts and blog things that are out there. Again, if I were to start with the first one, I'd probably go with perceptionaction.com. It's going to bounce all over the science, be in other sports, not just volleyball, but you can wrestle with that. Volley Brains, Matthias is doing some awesome stuff out of Denmark, I think, or Belgium. Some great stuff there. And then some documentaries that I recommend. Free Solo about a rock climber, Buck about training horses and In Search of Greatness.
Yeah, John, just so you know, I have shared a couple of Rob Gray's
videos,
specifically the ones you were involved in when he was in Arizona.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
They have the members have
They
seen
know that
stuff
link a little bit.
Yep.
That's a rabbit hole. Damn straight, that's a rabbit hole. You can go in there for too long, but good stuff. So, founder of ESA says something we believe in at the nationals team and at the kid level. Simple, clear purposes and principles give rise to complex, intelligent behaviors. This is about behaviors. When you make everything complex, you get these simple, stupid behaviors. So, you're in the 97%, you got to be patient. If you're 97%, you got to have fun. And we call it, in another slide, it's called how many smiles per hour. That's what you're looking at. How many smiles per hour. Catch them being good. There's a whole book on that. You don't need to be young John. Crossed his arms, came up to you, John, and why am I here? Because you screwed up. And I'm here to help. Blah, 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 blah. And all I did was pay attention to bad. Now I catch them being good. And if you want to go to the science of it, it's called summary feedback. And you will find that if they do 4 right and 1 wrong, you talk about the 4 right, not the 1 wrong. If they do 3 right and 2 wrong, you talk about the 3 right. That they do 2 right and 3 wrong, you talk about the 2 right. Only when you get into the 0 or 1 do you start checking for understanding. So summary feedback is against what I did, which was caught them being bad. And that's all I did, was run around catching them being bad. As soon as I corrected you, I'm correcting somebody else. If you do this, you start to teach kids how do they learn. They become your assistants. And I share that for the following fact. 12 kids, 2-hour practice. I can only give you 10 minutes of practice of my one-on-one attention, which is so valuable. The question is, what are you doing during the other 110 minutes when I'm not looking at you? And that's when people get great. So I have a shirt that says, "Are you learning?" when my back's turned to the kids. And they look at me and they see it. Are you learning? Because I'm not looking at you, but are you still learning? So had a fascinating chat with a heart surgeon, orthopedic surgeon, and brain surgeon. All came to watch their daughters train in volleyball. And they said, what is going on? This is the same shit that we saw 10 years ago when our eldest went through the program. It wasn't my program. We were just sitting in the stands. And I said, yeah, I bet you guys have to learn faster. And they all said that heart and orthopedic surgeon said, if I practice medicine now like I did 5 years ago, I'd be sued for malpractice. And the brain surgeon said, it's a 3-year cycle. If I practice medicine 3 years, like I did 3 years ago, I'd be sued for malpractice. So we need to change. I'm just asking you to ponder on some of this shit and go, maybe it will be uglier, because it will be. It's pretty chaotic, like Harch says, it's chaotic, but that's at the highest level. Here's a fact that's not in your slides. Gold medal USA woman, Tokyo Olympic gold medals. How much are they in system? The answer is 48%. Not winning a medal, John Kessel, 13 and unders. How much time are they in system? And the answer is about 10. So I need to train for the 90, which is part of the learning to set from all over the court, not at the spot. But I stood there and threw ball after ball to the setter slot for years of my life, coaching the way I was coached. throwing it perfectly. I might change the ball flight a little or make it move just a little bit, hardly. And the ball card always stayed at zone 5-6. I remember that. Instead of, my God, you guys, the ball card has wheels. I haven't moved the ball card so they get different angles at least, for God's sake. So,
John, we had a question come in. I think is decent time for it. Are there any downsides to whole training in your experience that we should be aware of? Or is it just benefits versus part training? I'm thinking perhaps time to reach certain skill levels, dependency to a certain amount of trainings, sessions each week, etc.
Yeah, great question. I'm going to argue this first. If they can show you without the ball, what the technique should look like, you've already done your job. They know what the concept of form passing is. They know what the concept of ball-shaped hands and extended the target is. They know that. They can show it to you. They could teach a littler kid that. The rest of their life is going to be learning how not to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And they do that because the speed goes up as you go faster and faster. I mean, you look at Eric Soji, has specialized when he was young. And he's like maybe the world's best libero at the pro level and Olympic level. Cody played against him and he got aced. Now, do I sit from the stands and say, Eric, move your feet? Well, first off, he doesn't have time to move his feet. And second off, he just misread it because reading starts with a dribble for a server and the way they toss it and all these other things long before they touch it. But I always train from in front of the net. So I look good in practice. They look good technically when the ball came to them. But my 90% of my reality is the ball's not coming to you. You got to move to the ball. You got to read. So Schmidt, who passed away, his 5 books, the best is probably affordable out there now. It's the 5th edition of Motor Learning and Performance Principles to Practice, which has so much science and backup that, it's how we were doing things from 75 on. Edition 1, edition 2. Passed away after edition 5. I asked him that very specific question. How much time should I do blocked training with kids that have never played before? And his answer was, if they can show you without the ball, the basic form, I'd go no more than 10 times. And then I'd go random. Of course, random doesn't mean not passing 20 in a row. It also means that you're not going to stand in the same place and deliver the same ball, or you're not going to throw it underhanded. You're going to tap it overhead or overhead pass it to them. Even though you're 8, you're going to slap a ball overhead to your partner to form pass to your teammate who catches it like a setter because you're doing a little triangle over the net, because that's reality. I practice so much for practice and technique form. When I'm wondering I don't think I've seen any science on this, but I do, well, I say that in the sense of data collecting, but I would argue that no contact is exactly the same as any other contact. They're all varied. Now, does that mean, okay, John, I can do them all in a row from the same spot? No, what I'm saying is that humans have to learn to self-organize. Each kid of any age. And I learned this the hard way because I spent over 20 years with the Paralympians, starting in 95. And you don't say to John Foreman, this junior, who's missing his right leg, put your right foot forward, Foreman. You don't do it. There's no right foot. And I can't tell him what is the right body posture for that form. He figures it out. And that same thing blossoms into every kid. Just like bike riding. Working with the NHL Dallas Stars this last couple days. there's a guy called the Magic Man, Pavel. He skates in a way that nobody else practically skates. And his stick is practically between his legs as he shuffles and runs and sprints and goes through people. It's like still between him. And they finally said, how come? He grew up in the Soviet Union and only had one stick. And so he learned, no coach told him, everybody else had more than one stick, but he was poor, he said. I had one stick. I had to protect my stick. And so I learned to skate and hustle and do shots and everything, protecting my stick. And he wouldn't have come out to be the Magic Man if he hadn't had that chance. Meanwhile, got Gretzky out there, who's the world GOAT for hockey, youngest little brother and playing pond hockey 2-on-2, 3-on-3 for years. That's how he got good. Not 6-on-6.
So one other question, John, because I don't.
Yeah.
This is in a different track, but it came up earlier, and I don't know if we'll circle around to this topic.
Okay.
But the question is, do the U.S. national youth teams give players the opportunity to play all positions and different systems other than 5-1?
I think the answer to that is no, and it is being discussed. And I know that we have a very big push to do the 6-3. John, I can send you that article about why or how to run a 6-3. But if I were God, I would make every team 16 and under run a 6-3. Yeah. And I'm not God, and my American coaches are running 5-1s at the very beginning for sure. There are a lot of programs that are more outcome focused. And I think once you get to the youth national team level and you're attempting to win the gold in that age group, that you're going to see those coaches do two things. They're playing triples where everybody's setting. They're playing doubles where everybody's setting. But they are attempting to storm, form, perform with those 12 to 14 kids and not necessarily run a 6-2. But I know that if I were feeding one of those programs, I'd be probably running a 6-2. So good question. It's, it's that now we're in the 2%, the 3%. That has sometimes had different things to happen. All right. Prima non cosere. What is that? All you Latin experts, it's right there in the slide in front of you. You might be able to read it in Greek and Latin. It's the Hippocratic Oath. First, do no harm. And I really like working with coaches who inspire first rather than instruct. Because those kids will come back because they've sensed your passion and your love of the game, because you're spending your lifetime credit of minutes helping them get better. So inspiring them before you instruct them, seek first to understand before you need to be understood, all that kind of stuff. So this slide we've talked about, and I've never seen a playground coach telling you how to do tag games or anything, or out there telling you how to play stuff. But what is the recess rule? In my experience, I see kids all over the world practicing in school from 8 to 10 in the morning, mathematics, sitting in one spot, doing it or whatever, and then the recess bell rings. I've never seen a single kid then go out and start jogging around the playing field and then stretch. Not one. And they don't come in going, oh, I pulled a hammy, They come in and they go, I broke my arm, but that wasn't because of the warm-up not happening, supposedly. It's because you go little to big. but you want to get, I mean, Reed Pretty and Riley Salmons, they got a gold medal between the two of them, each of them, I mean. They played one-on-one for their warm-up for every national team warm-up for 8 years against each other. And it was something like 10,300 to 10,200 at the end. So they competed and they warmed up one-on-one and they get really good inside the 3-meter line. When you play short court game warm-ups, one-on-one plus one with the player ducks back and forth, or you can weave, all these versions. Your kids get good inside the 3-meter line, dealing with the net, clearing the net with, without jumping and hitting over the net. I warmed up way off the court. I mean, way away from the court without any reality when I was a young coach. And I lost this opportunity to get good inside of the 3-meter line. I don't know if you need to get this book, but I just adored the title. Young John was a carpenter, and now I'm a gardener. And there's another slide in my big series that I'm thinking of right now, and that is when the flower doesn't bloom, you don't change the flower, you change the soil, you change what it's growing in. So maybe that sums up Foreman Volleyball England in a nutshell. You're working to change the soil right now so more flowers bloom and blossom.
That's exactly right.
This is our physically literate sign here, because we want kids to be good at lots of things. So Cody now has an English coach, a guy from England, but this was his coach last year, and he was French, and I wonderfully wisely chose to go back to France to be around his family because his kids were like 12, 13, 14, and they're only that age once, and he's off in Germany, and I respect what he did. But we talked about, when I worked with him, I talked about if you coach the person, the skill will develop. I promise. If you coach the skill, the person may not. And my job is to develop amazing leaders. My job is to develop the 97%. And yes, some will become Olympians, but that's not my job. My job is to give them a love of the game. All right, so secret 104. Put the player's name last. Young John saw an error, pulled everybody together, and immediately went, Foreman, when you blah, should you blah or blah? What's the answer? Foreman. Hopefully I didn't get lost.
Nope.
Okay. So, Foreman, when you blah or blah, should you blah or blah?
I don't know. What's well, let's say blah.
Blah is the answer, for God's sakes. All right. Here's the difference. I pull everybody together. I look at everybody and I go, you guys, when we blah, should we blah or blah? Foreman? See the difference? It's huge. Everybody's engaged because they don't know if you're going to say them. I'm picking on you for whatever question, to ask a question or whatever. But young John always started in excitement with the player's name first. And I'm just telling you, you'll be more effective. You'll be more efficient. You'll make a difference faster if you put the player's name last.
Just so everybody knows, the new Berlin coach that's an Englishman is Joel Banks.
Yeah,
some know that, but some don't.
Yeah, okay. Cool. So England covers up the one word here. I should fix it before I finalize it for you, John, here. But you are not going to make an Olympian at age 12, but you sure can lose one. And you're not going to necessarily make a ref at age 12, even though a lot of Americans' kids coach the match or referee the matches to save money and not pay a ref. But you can lose them too. This is a clinic I did in Dubai that took a lot of work to get women to come out. It was pretty much all males for the first few days while I was in Dubai. So the team on the right, that's Cody spiking when he's young, playing with his sister, and we're doing a camp. I just wanted you to see the wooden X's and the ropes and the grass. We set up 20 courts and they won the state championship. All they did all summer, coach put out a big bucket of lemonade and the kids played. And they rotated and played different people. They played 10-minute games. They play somebody new. And because they're reading, it's not going over a net. No, it's going over a rope or a ribbon. But that's all you need to get the read the way it doesn't exist when you train in front of the rope or net. So this is a big picture question to chew on Volleyball England, and that is really good coaches cause problems in the sense that they create things happening that you have to solve. They don't tell you the solution. They give you these challenges. And young John wasn't that way. He was all about making practice look good. And then we sucked when we played. So why is it so hard to change? We asked the Amish who are over there with no electricity still in 2024 and riding horse and buggies, but they're playing volleyball because they love it. I think the difficulty lies not so much in not developing the new ideas as escaping from your old ones. I tend to go with that one, although Locke says some truth there too.
Okay, another question, John, while we're on the topic of small-sided.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find the question here. At what stage of player development would you advocate moving to 6v6 and to specialize in position? Thinking about the tension here between player development and the need to specialize and be familiar with 6v6 tactics, particularly in thinking about getting into the talent pathway.
All right, great question. There. Two answers to it. The first one is I would probably. Oh, I don't know. Did I lose it?
Nope, you're still there.
Okay. I would say somewhere around 15, 16. I start to focus a lot more on 6-on-6 and again, a quarter of our practice is 2-on-2 at the highest level. BYU, probably a third of the time as they're rolling out there being one of the top teams, they're getting those competition and competitive cauldron and stuff. But so when I'm in 6-on-6, it doesn't mean I'm not still doing 2-on-2. And again, I'm indoors. I mean, Karch, pretty good player, 3 gold medals, 2 gold medals as a national team coach. Karch, I think he was 15 when he started playing 6-on-6. It was high school. So yeah, he was probably about 15. Up until then, he played doubles. Played doubles with his dad. He'd break the window or sneak in the window of East High and play doubles till 1 o'clock in the morning or till they got caught and kicked out. Played doubles with his buddies. He didn't play sixes. I say that because the 6-on-6 side and not specializing is something that you will be giving these gifts of players who can then branch out. I mean, the Dutch have liberos who are 6'10", because they're really good at that. But they weren't specialized when they were young to be that good. So the second answer is this story. I had a friend coached up in Idaho, and he had a program called Rise, and he bought into this and put up a ribbon down the middle of his court, and the kids that first learned to play all played over a ribbon, 2-on-2 for 8 weeks. And you're still teaching technique, but you're reminding them, you're asking them, show me what you should have done there. And if they show you without a ball what they should have done, they don't need me no more. They just misread the ball. So he played 2-on-2. They play each other 5 minutes and they rotate, like a big, huge pool chart of 12 kids. And just before the 8 week of never having played till now, we're playing this 2-on-2 and serving, of course, too. He had long court, narrow courts, and short, wider courts that he set up on the ribbon. Called constraint-based learning. You change the field of play, but you don't do much else. They got a call from Salt Lake City, 5-6 hours away. We're missing a 13 under team. Do you have anybody, Lauren, who could come down and play in this tournament? We really want to fill it out for everybody. He went into practice, said parents, he had nobody that could have done it at 12 or 13. So he went to these 11-year-olds and said to the parents, any of you guys want to go play in a 6-on-6 thing down in Salt Lake City this Saturday? And I think 7 of the parents said, yeah, we'll do that, sure. And so that night he taught them rotation and said, whoever's in middle front sets. And they went down to this 13 under tournament and they took 3rd out of 24 teams. Why? Because they could serve. They had tons of reps. Because they could read. And because they were taught to keep everything off the net and not get tight. And to dig balls off the net. And to set balls off the net. And to hit the ball over the stripe on the wall. To hit balls over the net. So, they went into 6-on-6. But, if the tournament is 13-year-old and 6-on-6, so be it. But I'm going to still be playing a lot in my training and teaching 2-on-2, 3-on-3, even 4-on-4. So the slide has 3 questions. Would you rather do a drill on blank or a game? And if you ask any of your kids, you want to do a drill on serve receiving or a game? They look at you like, are you crazy? Of course I want to do a game. So we need to be more game-like and we need to come up with more games. I typed in this morning, that's why there's little Valentine's hearts from Google from yesterday, I guess. Volleyball drill. And I now have to critically think between 236 million results. When I was a young coach, this didn't happen, but I bought Bob Bratton's 300 plus volleyball drills. And I was like, oh my God, I'm in heaven. And then 2 years later, he came out with 400 plus more volleyball drills. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And all I did was teach my kids drills. I wasn't teaching them how to play. I wish I could get my kids back. Sometimes I say. And of course, the volleyball math is simple. 4 kids in a ball, what are they going to do? Yep, they're going to play. 4 kids a ball, and then an adult steps in, and what happens? They start drilling. So this goes back to the thing I mentioned quite early. The most important skill in volleyball is reading, because what we see determines how we move and how we learn. And, you can't read. And when I threw balls from in front of the net, I head faked right and threw left. I did all this stuff to teach defense. And tip after tip kept falling. Even though there are some people listening here today that could be sitting on the team bench, coaching like you should, and you could walk out and save the damn tip. Not run, not dive, not sprawl, not roll, walk. And your players go, and the ball hits the floor. And then they look over at you. Well, I know young John was throwing balls from in front of the net, thinking that was teaching hustle and defense. I was teaching kids that a ball that gets tipped will go over the net, drop down to about waist height, and then shoot out into the corner. Yeah, that's what balls do. I wish I had those kids back. I share this reading thing a second time, partly because what you're seeing here, but what do you say to bronze and Olympic gold medal beach player Natalie Cook here? Form is beautiful. She just misread it. And I would say to her, Nat, because I knew this kid starting when she was 15, Nat, way to keep your eye on the ball. That's what I'd be saying. All right, so 2 things on this slide for the volleyball family. The first one is how many kids run in when you blow the whistle versus walk? And that has to change immediately at your very next practice, but don't tell them to do it. Ask them questions, guide their discovery. If John Kessel's kids all walk in every time the ball whistles, and John Foreman's kids of identical twins, but being coached the other, there are no twins are together on the same course, so we're split. And John's got the other twins, and every one of his kids, as soon as John whistles, sprints in. Who's going to learn more in the same amount of time? And the kids know, the sprinters. And then you say, you may do so. And then when you catch them running in and sprinting when you blow the whistle, the next time you say, whoa, you just earned 2 more minutes of queen of the court, of speedball, or whatever. And you catch them being good. And then they're going to run every time you blow the whistle, not because I punished them, but because I taught them the value, the why I want you to run in. Not because I said so, because I'm John Kessel. And so how many kids run in when you ask for a setter? Going back to that original question, kind of, every one of my kids runs in and goes, I'll set. When they're 12, 13, 14. And then finally, how many kids squeeze the balls in the cart? I have a little schnauzer puppy that's crying for his owner for some reason. His owner must have come in and gone out. I don't know if you can hear it, but how many kids squeeze the balls in the cart? And the answer is none of mine, because I carry an electric pump that I bought on Amazon, and I check the pressure in the balls as many times as I can. So, can you hear that, John?
A little bit. That's not distracting though.
Okay, all right. Otherwise, I'll go let him out or something. So we've asked this question about national teams. This is a picture of my daughter. She got on the cover of this book about coaching youth volleyball by somebody else. I didn't pick it. And now she's, okay, reason for this picture of Mac. I coached her when she was 13 to a bronze medal at the Junior Olympics of USA Volleyball. She was this tall, about 5'1". The next year, I wanted her to have somebody else. So I'm off doing a coaching clinic and the phone rings. I pick up, I say, oh, it's my daughter. She's trying out for the 1400 team. I'm going to take this real quick. I said to the clinic, hey, Matt, gotta go. I was cut. You were cut? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. When I get back, honey, we'll find another club. Hang in there, kid. I'll fly home early even. I promise. Love you. So sorry, kid. Bye. I went back to the clinic. An hour later, the phone rings. You guys, it's Mac. I got to answer this. I'm back on the team. I come to find out when I got home that her team, because we develop amazing leaders, in my opinion, there's a huge role, letting them lead and run practices and choose drills and all this stuff. They walked in, the 12 players. 7 of them were from the team before. 3 of them had gone on to another club, which is fine. And so they were filling in these 5 slots. And they looked around the room with the parents and said, where's Mackenzie? And the head coach goes, oh, we cut her. She's not tall enough. Blah, blah, blah. And they all looked at her and said, you cut Mac? Yeah, no, see, we're nationals, and last year, even though she started, They gathered in a circle, those 7. About a minute later, they turned to the coach and said, if you don't put Mac on this team, we're going to go walk out and we're going to get coached by Mr. Kessel again. I'm sure he'll do it because he wants his daughter to be with us. And the adults went, what? And they all said, we are serious as a heart attack. And Mac got invited in after about 45 more minutes, and they played with 13 on the roster. She started just about every game. And here's the most important part. Biology doesn't know birthdays. Mac is now at senior. When she was a junior, she was taller than every single one of those kids that she was cut for, or that not cut for, that stayed on the team, that supported her. She's taller than every single one of them. So part of what I know John wants is to get this whole thing of keeping as many kids as long as possible and as game-like and safe of an environment as possible. We'll cover that in a sec. Positive air to great training concepts. I just share this picture. I've been talked about it a little bit because those dogs know that they don't want to make a negative error into the barbed wire. They want to clear it higher than they should so that they can have fun and not get hurt. And that captures this. Hitters should be trained to hit over the net and out of bounds 100% of the time, because they have to learn how to hit off the blocker's hands. And when we stand on the ground and we pepper and when we wall spike and we do a lot of things, we're teaching them to be bad. Unintentionally, I might add. So this slide is about the bottom segment. Talent is everywhere, opportunity is not. And I think what you guys are doing there to create more opportunities is awesome. And I think you can keep expanding, because they don't have to be in a great gym. We'll talk about that here in a second. I would rather have a great coach in a poor facility, and Dan Coyle's book, The Talent Code, shows this happening all over the world, than having an amazing facility with a poor coach. Carch lines, an OTI in the national team gym is an opportunity to improve. It's not a mistake. It's just an opportunity to improve. Another one that's not in the slides, we don't call our subs substitutes. We call them game changers. That's their role, to change the game. And if you've never seen him before, this is the 2016 MVP gold medalist from Iran. And he is the 3rd tallest human being in the world at 8'2". So this whole journey that we're on is not linear. It looks like these drawings, and you just, because biology doesn't know birthdays, you just got to keep as many kids as long as possible. So I believe in that which you teach, you learn, big time. And so my younger kids, even my 12s, are coaching 8-year-olds. And I'm proud to see Cody now, without any prompting from me, coaching others. This is for the elite group, the higher group. Ball time is probably the first AI group to go out and do things. And after this is over, if you're one of those nerds, see what ball time is doing, and you can start to see some interesting stats for the higher level teams generated by ball time. So what is long-term athletic development? It is decide slowly. What is long-term athletic development? It's keep as many kids as long as possible in as safe and as game-like an environment as possible. So stop cutting kids. Now, I'm going to tell a story, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm going to tell one last story here, probably, because we're at 90 minutes almost. The elementary schools of my daughter there were 6 that fed into a middle school. Each team had only a 6th grade team. And so those 72 kids arrived at the 7th grade to try out for the school team of 12. So we're pretty scholastically based in the US, of course. And so the coach had to cut down to 12. And I went to the athletic director of the entire school district and said, you can't be cutting 60 kids at the age of 13. Biology doesn't know birthday. You have no clue who's going to be good at 13. You got to keep everybody. And so we made a deal. On Monday, the 13th through 24th kids in ranking, you could say, practiced 1 time a week. Got a shirt for $5. On Tuesday, the 25th through the 36th. On Wednesday, the 37th through the 48th. On Thursday, the 49th through the 60th. Some of them self-selected out. They weren't trying out. They just want to be with their friends, all this stuff. Every third Saturday morning from 9 to 1 or 2, 8 to 2, 8 to 2. The parents refed, the kids refed, the janitor ran the gym. All the Mondays went to one school wearing their school t-shirt, no number. All the Tuesdays went to another gym on a Saturday from 8 to 2. They played in pools of 4, representing their school. And then when the season was over, everybody was done. I tell this story, again, it's not the science, but it's what I see happen in the grassroots of the world. What happened at the high school level, 50% of the kids that the high school coach kept for the C JV varsity were from the kids who got cut in 7th grade. Keep as many kids as long as you can. Who dis? And the answer is, without making you type it in chat, it's the ideal coach. And maybe his mouth is too big. We do have 2 ears and 2 eyes and 1 mouth for a reason. And WAIT is an acronym that I would throw at you guys in England, and it simply means, why am I talking? That's a question you got to ask yourself a lot. So 17 Olympians have come from this club. And if you notice, it's not an indoor club here, it's sand. Adult court in front of us, men, adult court behind us, women, and then in back of that, you see a baby court that's 6 meters. This is Outrigger Canoe Club, where they play 2-on-2. And sometimes the guy doesn't show up, and so the kid gets pulled onto the court. That doubles pipeline has created Karch Karai, has created Misty May, who didn't start playing sixes until she was 13. She played doubles from 7 to whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I suppose I could spend some time doing the science behind it, but I see it in Cody. I see it in everybody else. Feed forward is better than feedback. And so be kind and specific and helpful and guide discovery. Idea for you guys. Each team has a night for the club season where the parents get to come be coached by their son or daughter. They sign a waiver form. It's only an hour workout. They spend about 5, 8, 10 minutes teaching them each of the techniques and the kind of drill that they might do with their son or daughter being their coach. And then the piece de resistance is that for 10 minutes, the parents play the parents. And during those 10 minutes, the kids cheer for 5 minutes the way they hate being cheered for. And then 5 minutes in, they switch and they cheer for their parents the way they want to be cheered for. And this little thing, best day of my life, this 18-year-old kid, when we did it with the 18s for the first time for the whole club, put her arm around her dad and was walking out and looked at me and said, "Best volleyball day of my life." It was so awesome. So hopefully you're finding your purpose. These two diagrams show it. I feel lucky to have found my purpose in helping people like you that give so much to our sport and to the kids. You can look it up in Japanese, Ikigai, or you can do finding your purpose. Every intern that worked for me for 30 plus years at USA Volleyball got this on their desk. And whenever they turned anything into me, they had to answer all of these. Did you ask when, why, who, what, how, where? And I always got much better material given back to me. And as we close out here, I know we've got a little more learning tag on, but Gawande is a really phenomenal surgeon teacher and surgeon, and his book really resonated with me that we have not effectively used the ability science has already given us and made adequate efforts to change that. So I see that in coaching too, and I admire and embrace what Volleyball England is doing here. There is a motor learning session from about 15 years ago you can still find on YouTube, The Game Trains the Brain, that I did with Steve Bain, a doctor of neurology. This idea of freedom, this just happened last weekend. And I know that you guys have a lot of soccer knowledge, football knowledge for you guys. So Ted Lasso aside, you know, this is a true quote about my players in the game weren't free, didn't have freedom. And that's partly because of practice. I know John's got a Facebook group, but John's also probably one of these things. 20 or 15 years ago or so, high school coach named Brian Swente said, "I can't afford to get my kids to come to America. They're Army brats. They don't have the money, but they're giving to their, you know, they're giving their all here in Vilsec. And is there any way, what do you think we should do?" And I said, "I'll bring the camp to them." And so we brought the camp to them. Ended up being all Europe, military bases, almost 250 kids, and $75 for 5 days because they slept at the base, and the parents made the food, and we provided very low cost coaching. Brian was sending me away and said, "How do we keep in touch?" I said, "I don't know, text, Facebook, something like that." He said, "I'll form a Facebook group." And we figured that we just put our coaches that were in the clinic in it, but it was public. We've closed it down to not be public, but we have 25,000 coaches, trainers sharing ideas. And the rule that I enforce is say what you mean what you say, but don't be mean when you say it. And if you're an ass, we warn you. And if you continue to be an ass, we kick you out. Where is your whiteboard? Young John kept all his secrets in the book of John, and he would open it up and the kids would go, "Oh, what's going to happen next, coach?" And now our national teams each have 3 whiteboards because your practice objectives should not be a secret. Who are they who are you coaching? It almost doesn't matter. It does 97%. They want to have fun. They want to get better. They want to be safe. They don't want to be punished. They want to move and be challenged. They want to learn. They want to get to know a team. They want to explore, and they want to play. How am I doing here? Yeah, I'm good. I'm just about done. I've got 2 or 3 more slides. I'm not going to do this whole slide. I'm going to share 2 words, 3 words to get rid of. First one is to get rid of the word try. Any of you listening, if somebody had said to you tonight, party at my place, and you turned to them and said, I'll try and be there, what were you really telling them? And in my unscientific experience, you're telling them, I'm not coming. It's totally different if I say to you, John, I'll be there, versus I'll try to be there. When I say I'll be there, I'm going to be there. So get rid of the word try, because it's a failure methodology. It's not a success methodology in the gym. Just tell them, hey, I'm looking for 1 out of 10 here. Get rid of the word but. John, that's a pretty cool shirt you've got on, but. And as soon as in any language you say but, the door slams on the compliment. It does not slam when you say and. So I'm simply asking you in your feedback to change the word but to and you'll be a more effective coach and you'll get more out of your kids. And I'm going to leave it at that. I don't have time to tell the don't story. Klingman says there's the smiles per hour. I don't think boredom is a particularly strong developmental element. This is a handout that I'll send to John, and you guys should wing it up into an English version of learning all about your kid, because they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Examples of scoring, very valuable. This is the more learning stuff we're not going to do because we don't have time, but I threw some in. And in closing, what is truer than truth? And the answer is the story. So you've heard me, like a coach should, tell stories because we remember stories better than facts. We get told bedtime stories. You don't get put to bed with bedtime facts. And of course, for those of you that sometimes struggle, just remind yourself it's not my circus, not my monkeys. Where I am now is here. If you ever get to England, I've had more than a few people from England come visit, bike riding and stuff. The Veteran First Responder Healing Retreat. This is our event center in the lower left, our lodge in the upper area, and then there's cabins all over. And in the back, you can even see teepees and Buckminster geodomes and bubble tents and Conestoga wagons and tiny homes. And we heal vets, but we've even brought in the Women's Olympic water polo team. Our U.S. women's team won the World Championships before Tokyo and Seoul, and we're celebrating in a bar in Seoul. And floor gave way and killed 26 South Koreans underneath them and broke several of their limbs. And they came to this property for 10 days. 7 of it was a silent retreat to heal and get ready for Tokyo. And we'd love to do that with vets and first responders, and we love to have families when we're not doing that kind of stuff too. So that's where I have been kind of since I left USA Volleyball, except I get to be lucky and go to countries this last year, Norway, Estonia, Philippines, and do what I just did in 90 minutes plus. So we're done, Keon. We're done. That's how to reach me. More questions out in the system.
Yeah, well, there's one question that came in before. How would you manage a mixed ability group with beginners and more experienced players with different levels of motivation and interest, but a need and philosophy to keep everybody playing?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there's several answers to that. We, at the higher level, where you still see not so good and good, you pair up the better players with the not so good players. Flo Hyman used to pepper with Laurel. Laurel was the best defender. Flo is the worst, and it helped her get to be better at defense. And ideas like that, I would simply make sure that I had balanced teams, some of the competition, and not as balanced teams. There's a thing, if you look at the competitive cauldron, what that does, Karch won with everybody he played with. He made everybody better. In an interesting way, Karch cut arguably the best athlete on the team in 2016 because the principle of the women's national team is celebrate the successes of your teammates more than your own. And this athlete couldn't do that. She was maybe narcissistic like Trump, I don't know. But long story short, they cut her. And in mingling the team in a competitive cauldron, what you do is that every time you play doubles for a 10-minute scored thing and you keep track of wins and losses as an individual, you mix the teams up. And there are cauldrons out there that'll show you how to do that. And so ultimately they're playing with the worst and the best. And you can also do a triples or doubles situation where if you win, you go right. If you lose, you go left. And what happens there is that the better players tend to play more with the better players, but they have a chance and they know it to get over to that side. And of course, since it's new teams, they're constantly going different ways. I know that this thing I mentioned of the best athletes at 12 coaching the 7 to 11-year-olds, I believe if that what you teach, you learn. And so I think getting, pulling out and making a drill of 4 where one of them is the feedback person or something, that kind of stuff helps everybody too, especially if they're the better players, but it helps all of them. So, I understand starters. If I can find it, I can send an article, John. It was downloaded or liked like 4,000 times. It's called "You're Paying for Practice, Not for Playing Time." And what I wanted parents to understand is that when it's 6-on-6 with your daughter and playing 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 and warming up 1-on-1 +1 or 2 versus 0 or all these variations, when that's happening, your daughter's getting lots of reps. When we go to play 6-on-6 and there's 6 on the bench and 6 on the court, and there's 6 on the other side getting the contacts, not teammates, and 6 off the court, the number of contacts per hour you make in a match and in a tournament are tiny. Probably happens in half a practice at a normal good practice. And if you practice 2 to 3 times a week, but you're playing only once every 3 weeks or something, you're paying to get good at practice, not for the playing time. So when I put out the starters, because of what I've seen them earn, my parents understand that their daughter is still working on it. And we're still going to be coming up with ways to put you in. Now, there is a rule, I think, in Canada that 13s, maybe 14s, you have to play everybody. You play 2 out of 3. You play one lineup in the first set and totally everybody else in the second set. And then you pick who is in the third if it goes 3. Or you go 3 and you pick, you got to put whoever you want out there. I like stuff like that. You can also do wash and triple ball type things. And that's where at the lowest level, because it's often serve, ace, 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 air. Oh my God, they passed it. Triple ball allows it to be serve, throw to side A, throw to side B. You either got 2 or you got all 3 of the points, and that gets you a point in a game to 25. And again, I like that at the young level. People might not have liked it before, but in Canada, they're starting to catch on because that kids' retention is higher. More kids love the game. And when it's time, when it matters at 15 or 16, then they've given them this base and not lost players that grew up bigger when they hit those ages and not all these other things that we've kind of covered. Hopefully that answered it.
Yeah, I think so. Anybody else out there have any questions that we haven't addressed already so far in one fashion or another? All right. I think we just about got it.
And we stayed under 2 hours.
And
Hallelujah.
we did. All right, definitely appreciate the time,
Everybody,
John.
thanks. Thank you for the chance to share some thoughts. And you've got my email if you got a question,
You
or
got it.
you can WhatsApp me or whatever.
All right. Have a good evening, everybody.